Following is intended only for mature audiences.
Before we get into today's message, I want to warn you in advance that some of the content in this series may be offensive at times, but that's okay, because growth at times requires growth pains. Prolonged immaturity is arguably the most underestimated enemy of God-given destiny. It's time to mature. So get ready for mature audiences only.
I want you to look at somebody beside of you and say, I hope you're ready. Come on, tell them, I hope you're ready. I hope you are ready for today, okay? Some of the content you hear today may seem offensive at times, but that's okay. Just tell them, say, that's okay. Say, we're going to be all right, okay? Just tell somebody, we're going to be all right this morning. We are in week number 8 of our beginning of the year series, Mature Audiences Only. And I hope that you are maturing as this series goes along. We have one more week after today in our Mature Audiences Only series. So we're going to finish up next week talking about maturing in our marriage and relationships. So we've gotten very practical these last couple of weeks. We started out talking about being mature in our message, how we're mature in the gospel message that we preach, this message of grace and righteousness by faith. Then we talked about maturing in our minds, how we think. We talked about maturing in our mouth, watching the words that we speak, make sure we're speaking life-giving words, words of faith. We talked about being mature in our ministry, in serving, that we are to serve one another and serve the world, just as Jesus did not come to be served, but Jesus came to serve. Mature believers follow in Jesus' example. Then we talked about maturing in our motives. We can do good things and we can do the right things for the wrong reason. So we talked about maturing in our motives. In the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about maturing in our money and being givers, as our Father is a giver, as God is a giver. He's a generous giver. He gives freely. And then we said his children will do the same thing. And today we are going to discuss probably what's maybe the most relevant topic that we can discuss at this time, and that is maturing in our media. Somebody say media. That sounded like y'all really didn't want to say that, but you just obliged me because I asked you to. Come on, let's say media. There we go, maturing in our media. If you haven't noticed, we can't escape media. It is all around us. So this is one of the areas that I think we need to talk about in church, that we need to talk about as God's people. Let me just remind us real quickly of one of our theme verses that we looked at early on in our series, and that comes from 1 Corinthians 13:11, when Paul says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. I put away childish things. I want you to do me a favor this morning. If you have it handy, I don't want you reaching through your purses or anything. If you have it handy, I want you to grab this. I want you to hold it up. Come on, hold it up. Who's got it handy? Hold it up. Absolutely. This right here changed the world exponentially. This has become one of the most influential things that we own. This right here. This is something that we own, but so many times owns us. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is this device that we hold in our hands, that we literally carry the whole world with us as we travel around. We carry the whole world with us in our pockets. And this invention in and of itself is absolutely amazing. I mean, any song that's almost any song that's ever been released, you have in your pocket. Almost any movie that's ever been released, you have right in your pocket. Every television show that's ever been released, we have it right in our pocket. In every encyclopedia, the history of the world, any fact that you want to know, any answer to any question that we have in the world that we can ask Google or ask Siri, we hold right here in our hands. I know an amazing thing is, I can be in my office working here and I can have a document and I can be working on something, and the moment I hit save, it goes up in the cloud. And guess what? I can access it from anywhere. It's ready at my laptop when I get home. I can access it right here on my phone. Every file that I have is right here. In fact, all of my books, every pastor, all of us pastors, we're addicted to libraries, or we're addicted to books. Whether we intend to read them or not, we have to have books. And I have a library full of books, and I collect them still every week. But almost all those books that I have physically in my office, I have here as well. I remember, years ago, when I would go to conferences or we go on vacation, and I would want to pack my backpack full of books, and some of these theology books are pretty thick, and I remember cramming those books in there and notebooks in there and Bibles in there and having to carry. And one time I remember I went up on a trip and I carried this duffel bag full of books. I walked into the hotel room and they're probably wondering what I was carrying in the duffel bag, but I'm like, it's just theology books. I'm just here to study, for this conference for the week, and I'm dragging this big duffel bag full of books. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just stick every book that I need right here in my pocket and carry it with me. So this, what we have in our hands, is an amazing piece of technology that we have. But needless to say, this right here, our smartphone right here, can be a great tool. It can provide us a lot of information. It can connect our world. I mean, how many of us are thankful that we can now talk to our relatives and friends that are in other parts of the country or people all around the world, and we can see their faces and we can talk in real time? I mean, this is absolutely amazing. But in the hands of the immature, it can be very dangerous. So for the mature, this can be a great asset. For the immature, it can be a great liability to us. I want to start by reading some statistics that I found from TechJury website. First of all, it says that the average smartphone owner unlocks their phone 150 times a day. 150 times a day, you pick it up and you swipe, or you put your thumbprint on there, or it looks at your face and you unlock your phone 150 times a day. Users spend an average of many hours on their smartphone, compared to less than 45 minutes a day with their family. An average smartphone user checks their phone every 12 minutes from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep. The average smartphone user checks it every 12 minutes. The average user touches their phone, including swipes and taps, touches their phone 2,617 times a day. 80% of smartphone users check their phone within 1 hour of waking up or going to sleep. Here's a statistic you need to know. 75% of Americans use their mobile phones on the toilet. And 19% of them drop their phones in the toilet. That's literally on the statistic sheet. When you talk about teenagers, the numbers get even more staggering. 11 teens die from distracted driving due to smartphones daily. Teenagers who spend 5 hours a day on electronic devices are 71% more likely to have suicide risk factors than those who spend 1 hour of use. Teenagers who are heavy users of social media are 27% more likely to have depression. 80% of teens typically spend time on their phones before they go to bed or after they go to bed. 41% of teens feel overwhelmed by the number of notifications they receive daily. So this past school semester, I am teaching a 9th grade class. So Noah and I was preparing for this message today. I talked to some of my 9th graders in the class on Friday, asking them about their cell phone use. And they admitted, and they are aware of the problems that come with cell phone use. Some of the things that our 9th graders said about cell phone use, they said it affects their self-image. It affects their self-image because they constantly see other people post stuff. They go on Instagram and they see Instagram models post on social media, And it makes them feel insecure about themselves. It makes them feel insecure about their bodies, insecure about their looks, insecure about the things that they have. And they admitted that after a prolonged use of cell phone use, that they feel more drained than they do when they're not having their cell phone use. But then they admitted that, hey, it is addicting. In fact, one girl said, I intend to watch one more video on TikTok, and then 2 hours later, I'm still scrolling through. But then when I asked about what the solution was, they know that there's problems, but there's no solutions. The only solution is my parents take my phone away. We know there's issues. We know that in the hands of the mature, this can be a great asset. In the hands of the immature, it can be very, very dangerous. And it's not just the time that we spend online, it's the content that we view online. What we expose ourselves to matters. Who or what we let influences us matters. And it's not just the content, it's not just the time, but it's how we present ourselves when we are online as well. And as Christians, we are no less Christians when we're on this device than we should be when we're in here or when we're at our job. It should be no less how we present ourselves. For, we're living in a world that before you go get a job, your employer is going to look at your social media to see what you've been posting, the things that influence you, what you do, what your habits are. We see that as becoming more and more a part of our world. But today we're going to talk about the media that we are exposed to. When I say the media that we are exposed to, there's several different forms and types of media. Obviously, we have social media, our Facebooks, our Instagrams, our Twitters, our TikToks, all of that. We have our social medias. Then we have news media. We can't get away from news media. I remember growing up and going to my grandparents' house, and we'd get up and, they'd watch the news at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then at 12 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock at night. And then 24-hour news networks came. And then if we wanted to, we could sit in front. Why we'd want to, I don't know. But then we'd sit in front of the news and watch it 24/7. We flip back and forth and we listen to this. And then news just stopped becoming news. And then news took on the responsibility to tell us what we should think and how we should feel about things in the world. And then not only is it just we seek it out on television, but then it's on our phones constantly. It's on our social medias. It's on Twitter. It's on all of this. And then there's entertainment media. There's entertainment media. And then there becomes, growing up, we used to have to watch. This is horrible. And you young people, you don't know the struggle of having to watch a television show on Friday night and then have to wait a whole week to watch the next one. You got to wait a whole week. A whole week. You know what happened? And now they release whole seasons at one time. And what does the entertainment culture do? It wants us to binge watch 12 episodes in one day. So we're watching 12 hours of television. And then what does it want us to do? It wants us to finish that one so we can go to the next one. And it gets us addicted to that one so we can go to the next one. So you have entertainment media that is all around us. And again, those things in and of themselves are not bad things. But for the immature, it can be. For the mature, this can inform us. It can entertain us for a little while. We can escape reality for a little while. But for the immature, it's a playground for the self-centered and opinionated. It's a playground for constant complainers and gossips. It's a playground for nosy people trying to get in everybody else's business. So we want today to talk about going from the immature to the mature. That we're not just wasting mindless hours scrolling, as one person called this a high-tech pacifier for us. But we want to grow up in our media. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I'm not saying we got to throw our smartphones away. I'm not going to do like those. You remember we used to have back in the day, the 70s and 80s, they would have those CD burnings. Everybody bring your CDs up, your secular CDs, and we're going to burn them. We're not going to burn our cell phones this morning, okay? We're not going to throw them on the altar and stomp on them and cast the devil out of them. We're going to mature. We're going to mature because that's all we need. We need to mature. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look today at three dangers of immaturity in our media use. 3 dangers. Now know in these dangers, the smartphone didn't create these things. The things we're going to talk about today are really always been a part of our human nature. So it's not this that's necessarily the issue, but what this has done is it's given us greater and easier access and potential for these problems to rise to the scene. For this device is an unrelenting catalyst for these feelings and these dangers to come up in our lives. So let's start with the first of these 3 dangers. The first danger that we see, the first danger of immaturity in our media, is that immature people allow media to put them in a state of overload. Immature people allow media to put them in a state of overload. Having all the information of the whole world at our fingertips, again, can be a good thing, but also having all the information of the whole world at our fingertips can really overwhelm us. And it can really overload us. For our brains, our bodies were only meant to process so much at certain times. Our bodies and our minds aren't designed to process from the second we wake up to the second we go to sleep of constant information and constant image and constant notifications. And it plays on our minds with so much information coming at us so quickly. That's not how we were designed. So is it really vitally important that we have to have all the information in all the world, everything coming at us, that we have to know everything that's going on at all times? Yes, it's good to be informed, and we need to be informed, but do we need to be informed and have to know the very second that everything happens in the world? The problem comes from when the overload of media leads us to fear. When the overload of media leads us to anxiety. When the overload of media leads us to depression. When the overload of media leads us to worry. When the overload of media leads us to distraction. When the overload of media leads us to a hurried lifestyle. For Philippians 4:6, we're very aware of Philippians 4:6 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication. So we're constantly seeing things online that make us anxious, and what do? But we don't think to escape it and go to God in prayer and meditation. We keep scrolling, and we keep looking, and we keep feeding ourselves the information that led us to anxiety or fear and overload in the first place. Because somehow we're conditioned in our world to believe that if we're not constantly on our phones, then we're missing out on something. And there's actually a term, the fear of missing out, or FOMO, the fear of missing out. We're afraid we're going to miss out on something. So when we're immature, we tend to develop a fear that if we are not engaged in social media or in front of what's going on in the world at all the times, that we're really missing out. And this is one of my issues. My phone usually all the time looks like this. If I'm at my desk, if I'm working, if I'm studying, my phone looks like this. Even if I'm not on it and I'm not touching it, it looks like this. Because you know what happens? This is like right here, this little Facebook button, okay? This red notification pops up. And I constantly am working and I'm looking at the phone to see if I have a notification. And you know what happens the second that notification pops up? I gotta see who liked my post. All right, this church just started a live stream. Okay, it's good to know. So I really needed to know that this church that I'm not at today, because I'm at this church, just started their live stream. But I had to know that because the little red notification button just popped up. When I'm sitting at home in my recliner, I have one of those wireless chargers sitting beside me on the table beside of me. And when I'm sitting in my recliner, my phone is always like this. I may not even be on it, but it's always like this. So that way I can glance over and I can see if I have one of those. Okay, I have an email right here. So I got to check and see what the email is. Early bird rate ends tomorrow, okay? So somebody's wanting me to buy something from them. All right, let's delete that, No impulse buying. That's what we talked about last week. Okay, I don't need whatever the early bird is, All right. Now I have 2 YouTube notifications. I don't know. Okay, one of them is me preaching. Okay, I'm watching myself preaching live right now. That's kind of weird. Hold on, let me fix my hair. So we constantly have this influx of have to know information. Now, I don't have to know any of that stuff that I just looked at. That was not very important. But yet, we're addicted to when that pops up, then that information pops up, then we read that. So what happens is we're constantly focused on all these things, and a lot of them are the problems that we go through in this life and the problems on the world. If we're constantly focused on the problems, if we're constantly focused on our media, that means we're not constantly focused upon Christ. Think of all the problems that we have. Just think about this week, all the problems that we've seen in the world. Now, what can I do to solve all the world's problems? Absolutely nothing. But I'm consumed with it like I'm somehow responsible for that because I have to know, I have to keep up. There's problems all around us, the world's problems. There's problems in politics, obviously. There's problems in society. There's problems with other people, and they're very happy to let us know their problems on social media. If we keep feeding on the negative and expect to live a faith-filled, positive, and productive life, I'm afraid it's going to be very, very difficult. We need to be aware of the things around us, yes, but we can't let the things around us consume us and control us. Is it just a coincidence that anxiety is at an all-time high? More people are on anxiety meds than ever before. That depression is at an all-time high. That fear is at an all-time high. And is it just coincidence that media exposure is also at an all-time high? So what can we do to deal with the fear, the worry, the anxiety? First of all, the most thing we can do is get back to trusting God. Get back to trusting God. Because if you haven't realized today, God's on the throne today. You and I are not. God is sovereign. You and I are not. The only one that needs to know everything in the world that's going on is the one that already knows everything that's going on, everything that has gone on, everything that will go on, and is God, and He's got it. And He's under control. That's why I said earlier, the Holy Spirit in you is not overwhelmed. And if the Holy Spirit in you is not overwhelmed, you don't have to be overwhelmed as well. We can trust God by casting our cares upon Him. I'm exposed. Yes, we have bad situations going on in the world. What's the best thing I can do? I can pray about it. I can trust God about it. And then I can go about my day and not let it control me and not let it worry me. It also puts us not just in a state of worry and fear and anxiety, but think about this. It also puts us in a state of hurry and instant gratification. Having to do and have everything right now. It puts us in a state of hurry. The moment that email, I got to share that email. Then I got to do this. And then we're constantly in the state of hurry. It's said today that the average human's attention span is now shorter than the attention span of a goldfish. The recent study said an average human attention span has fallen from 12 seconds in 2000. That means you're looking at something for 12 seconds before you get distracted to look at something else. It went from 12 seconds to 8 seconds until something distracts us, until we look at something else, until we think about something else. And it's reported, I don't know how they figure this stuff out, but it's reported that the average goldfish has a 9-second attention span and we have an 8-second attention span. It doesn't say anything about brain size or activity there, so we'll just leave that one alone. Why have most ads that you watch online has been regulated to 15 seconds at a time? Because we've been accustomed to scrolling at a rapid pace. And they say if something doesn't catch your attention within the first 5 seconds, something has to catch your attention to keep you watching. Hurry. We've lost the pace of patience in our fast-paced world. Where we order food on our app, and then the second we get there, we want it waiting for us right there on a tray that we can get it because we can't take 2 or 3 minutes to sit anymore. in a state of hurry. Have you noticed that Jesus was never in a hurry? Jesus was never in a hurry. He moved at the pace of his Father. He did what he saw his Father do. Jesus was never pressured by him or others to work at a certain pace or be hurried or be rushed or be distracted or be not focused. He operated from a place of rest in his Father. So we need to learn as we're scrolling as fast as we can or as we're binging and watching Netflix, not to live life rushing on to the next thing and forsaking the moment that we are in. For at the end of your life, you'll never say, man, I wish I'd spent more time scrolling. But you may wish I'd have spent more time with my family. You may wish I'd spent more time with my kids or my spouse. You'll never say, man, if I'd have just watched 3 more TikTok videos, my life would have been fulfilled and complete. No. Hurry robs us of operating in God's peace and God's pace. So Psalm 46:10 reminds us to be still and know that I am God. Not be in a hurry and rush and distracted and fearful as we're processing all the information in the world, wondering what we're going to do and getting mad at this and getting mad at that and getting mad at this person and worrying about that and what are we going to do about that? Oh, it's the end of the world because of this. It's the end of the world because of that. What am I going to do? The sky's falling. The earth is falling. Oh, what am I going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be still and know that he's God. And I shall not be moved off of the foundation of my hope in Jesus Christ. Yeah, the world's a mess. Newsflash, the world's always been a mess. Take a history class. Always been a mess. All the wars, there's always been wars. Always. There's always been nations overtaking others. There's always been fighting. That doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it right, but it makes it reality. The only difference is that 1,000, 2,000 years ago, they didn't have 24/7 constantly playing right in front of their face to be consumed by it. There could be something going on across the world, nobody knows about it here until much time later. Why do we get so fearful, anxious, distracted, in a hurry? We have to do it now. Be still and know that I am God. Number 2, second danger of immaturity. Immature people allow media to put them into a state of comparison and discontentment. Immature people allow media to put them into a state of comparison and discontent. This is one of the big things for the students that I talked with because there's such pressure on them to be perfect because we live in a filter and Photoshop world. A filter and Photoshop world. And the filter and Photoshop world says that I can change the appearance of everything about my life to make it look perfect and desirable for everybody else. And what that does, it puts us in a state of comparison with other people. So social media has given us a platform to display every area of our lives and everything that we have that we can freely share, whether it's a house or a car or outfit or vacation we went on or evening out on the town, whatever it is. And listen, that's not a bad thing. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But a good thing that's too much of a good thing can become toxic. And then it goes back to one of the foundational principles of our study throughout this month, and that is what's our motives. So what's our motive to put this stuff? Is it to make other people jealous of our lives? Or do we fudge our lives to make it think that our lives are better than it really is so that people will think better of us? What's our motivation behind the things that we do? So again, we need to check our motives as well. So with everybody posting everything about their lives, comparison inevitably creeps in. And it begins to rob us of our contentment as well. Because what can happen was if I have something better than somebody else, I can be like, oh, well, maybe they'll become jealous of me. You know, maybe I'll look better. If somebody has something better than us, then we'll say, well, man, you know, I just bought a 2021 car and they already got a 2022 car. Comparison. And it puts us in this comparison trap. And then we spend so much time just viewing the lives of others and comparing our life with their life that we basically miss living our lives. the way that God intended for us to live our life. So the Apostle Paul in his ministry reminds people in his ministry that we don't compare ourselves to others. And that's a principle that is very, very difficult to stay away from. When we compare ourselves, here's what happens. The enemy gets in our minds. And here's what he tells us when we compare ourselves with others. You're not enough. You don't have enough. You're not worth enough. And it begins to rob us of our joy. And for the immature, the more you scroll through looking at what everybody else has, the less you will appreciate what you have. You know, like Christmas morning, was like the greatest morning as a kid growing up. Because you open up your presents and you get all these gifts and then your grandparents come over and you show them your gifts. You're excited to show people your gifts. And then you can't wait till you go back to school because you get to put that new jacket on. You get to put those new shoes on. You get to wear those new clothes to school. And everything was good until you got to school and saw, that, man, you had some good Reeboks. But man, Johnny over there, he got the brand new Jordans. And then you were like, well, man, I wish I had gotten that. I wish Santa had brought me that for Christmas. But nowadays kids don't even wait a week till they get back to school. The moment you open your presents, you can get online and see that, somebody else, man, they got a new Apple Watch, or they got the newest iPhone, and I got the one that was put out last year. And you can see how comparison and exposure robs people of their joy and robs us of our gratitude. Robs us of our gratitude from God. So mature believers can resist the comparison trap by knowing how to properly frame their gratitude. We know that things will never make us eternally happy. We learn that as we mature. So all this creates just a big discontentment in our lives. Discontentment is a state of being dissatisfied with where we are at. And it leads to anger. It leads to disappointment. It leads to frustration. And another thing we do when it comes to discontentment is we're always seeking satisfaction by going online. Well, I can be satisfied with my life if my life is presented better than somebody else's life. Or we seek validation and approval. If you haven't noticed, we post all our stuff on YouTube, and YouTube recently has disabled the dislike button. Because you could go on there and you could like videos, you could dislike videos. The same thing, we have like buttons and all of this. And what they found out is that now people are living by the like button. They're judging themselves by how many likes they get. They're judging themselves by how many followers they get. So in order to help people to feel better and not feel as bad, YouTube disabled the dislike button. So you can only see the likes on a video, but you can't see the dislikes on a video. So something that wasn't probably intended to be, hey, that's cool if somebody can like this post, turned out, because it's in the hands of the immature, turned out to be something very, very dangerous. So the immature will always seek satisfaction, validation, and approval and acceptance from social media instead of seeking validation, approval, and acceptance in the gospel of Jesus Christ. So sometimes we need to stop the scrolling and start writing down the things that we're thankful for. I talked to a friend of mine on Friday, and she said, you know what's something that changed my life? She said, I take an index card, and I just start writing down things daily that I'm thankful for. And when you start writing down, I'm thankful for breath, I'm thankful for life, I'm thankful for all of this. And she said, I have over 50 cards now that I've written of things that I am thankful for. So gratitude will help us in our comparison. To see whatever anybody else has, we are so, so blessed in the world that we live in today, in the time that we live in today. So gratitude and finding our acceptance in Christ is two major things. So what does Paul say in Philippians 4? He says, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I've learned in whatever situation I am, I've learned to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I've learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him, through Christ, who strengthens me. He says, the secret I found in being content, the secret I found in facing whatever situation, if I've got a lot in abundance, more than other people, or if I've got less than other people, I've learned to be content. And I've learned to face every situation because of Christ. Because of Christ. Number 3, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to do this? Number 3, too late to turn back now. Immature people allow media to put them in a state of divisiveness and arguments. Divisiveness and arguments. Should I tiptoe or should I just go right through like a bull in a china shop? With the introduction to social media, the immaturity of our society has been injected with steroids. And immaturity has risen to the top. Immaturity has risen to the top with social media. Because everybody on earth has been given a platform, not just to receive information, but also to share information with the whole world. Like number 1, we think the whole world wants to hear everybody's opinion. But here's where we've come to in society. And this is the most, I would say, probably disgusting thing about social media. Is that in comment sections all over and in replies all over, it's absolutely brought out the worst in humanity. It's brought out the absolute worst in humanity. Because what social media has done, it has actually dehumanized everybody around us. When you don't have to look at somebody face to face and see them and talk to them, and most importantly, out of arm's length, it takes the humanity out. When I'm a screen and you're a screen and we're all behind a screen, man, we start to get bold, don't we? We start to say things about people we would never say to people to their faces. You know, and it's the breeding ground for ugliness and hatred and division and name calling. And it's brought out the absolute immaturity of our world. The things that we would normally used to say just with a group of our buddies sitting around, just talking shop, shooting the bull, now we say for the whole world to hear and for the whole world to respond back to us. And it's caused lots of danger. Because if you haven't noticed about social media, everybody is an expert on everything. Everybody's an expert on everything. Everybody's a doctor. Everybody's a lawyer. Everybody's a politician. Everybody's a president. Everybody's a theologian. Everybody is an expert on everything in the world. And they are quick to let you know that they're right and you're wrong. And when all you have are millions of people saying, I'm right and you're wrong, no, I'm right and you're wrong, no, I'm right and you're wrong, no, I'm right and you're wrong, it's a recipe for absolute disaster. And it has absolutely divided and affected our humanity. Because what happens when we engage online, it's not that we just share our beliefs or our opinions, it's we have to prove our point. And to prove we're right and everybody else is wrong. And that starts disagreements, it starts divisions, it starts arguments, it starts name calling, it starts cussing everybody out. You know, it starts all of this stuff that just grows and grows and grows. And unfortunately, believers have developed quite the reputation along with everybody else in the world of being fighters of their own opinion. Because we think that if somebody else has a differing opinion, their opinion somehow threatens our opinion. And that somehow we can't live out or believe our opinion if somebody else has. So we have a need to respond. And let me just say this. I grew up at the dawning age of the internet, the dawning age of chat rooms and instant messenger and all of this stuff. Being an 80s baby, I used to just sit in front of watch VCR tapes and sit in front of television waiting till the next Friday night so I could watch TGIF and Steve Urkel on Friday nights. And then we got the internet, and then we got chat rooms and AOL Instant Messenger, and then we started getting, so I've seen this from the beginning as a teen in those early days going up to now. And what I see is just the absolute constant arguing back and forth. And in my expert opinion, because I'm an expert, just like we all are, in my expert opinion, I've never, ever, once seen somebody's mind change because somebody else argued with them about it on Facebook. Never. It's never been like, oh, yeah, after 10 hours of arguing and discussing back and forth and calling each other's names, you're right and I'm wrong. Aren't you just amazing? All we do is just argue with people who will never share our opinion. So I've never seen someone change their minds because of a heated debate on social media. It is a fruitless exercise. It's pointless. It's a pointless, fruitless exercise. And it exposes our immaturity. So let's see if the Bible addresses these kind of attitudes that we see in our world and the desire to win arguments and the constant fighting. Here's some grown-up scriptures for us. 2 Timothy 2, 23 and 24. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. And that's Paul, as an elder, giving wise advice to his young protege. And he's saying here, don't get sucked in with foolish arguments. Don't get sucked in going on and back and forth with people. He's like, because as the Lord's servant, and I would just say more than the Lord's servant, as the Lord's child, as believers, our job is not to be quarrelsome. It's not to go around trying to win arguments, but it's to be kind to everyone, even those that may not have my opinion, but they're not kind to me. Boy, if they come to me, I'm going to come right back at them. You can do what you want to. Or you can mature and do what God would have us to do. You can do what you want to. Well, I got my freedom. I got my first. I can say what you can say whatever you want to. But you can also choose to mature in the things of the Lord and choose not to look foolish at the end of the day. You also have that freedom as well. We must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not argue and quarrel, but teach. The Bible says to be ready to give an answer to those who ask of your hope. Give an answer to those who ask of your hope. What could it be that if we lived out this Christian life, that if we weren't argumentative like everybody else, if we weren't fearful like everybody else, if we didn't live in comparison like everybody else, that people would come to us, the people we know, the people we expose ourselves to, and maybe would ask us about our lives? Maybe then something would be attractive about our life. If I'm just as angry and quarrelsome as you are, nothing about my life is going to be attractive to you. So maybe if as they see something different in us, see that we're not trying to win an argument, we actually love and care about people, then maybe they'll ask us about the reason for our hope. Let me give you some other scriptures. 2 Timothy 2:16. Avoid pointless discussions. He says right before that, avoid pointless discussions, for people will become more and more ungodly. Philippians 2:14. Do everything without complaining and arguing. Proverbs 29:22. An angry person stirs up conflict. A hot-tempered person commits many sins. And not only do we refrain from foolish arguments, but we also have opportunities to alleviate those arguments and to bring peace. Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers. Romans 14:9 says, so then let us pursue what makes for peace and pursue what makes for the building up of others. We dehumanize, we social media has dehumanized people where it seems that there are no consequences for what we say. There are no consequences. So if I call somebody an idiot online, I can say, you idiot, ha, 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 sin. If you call it out to their face, you might get a knuckle sandwich back. But we think because it's online, there's no consequences. There's absolutely consequences to every action that we take in life, whether we realize it or not. So I'm not saying don't post beliefs. I'm not saying don't share your opinion. But I'm not saying don't take a stand for things you believe in. But the motive behind those things shouldn't be to win an argument. It should be to let our light shine, not to win an argument. If you're out to win the argument, you've already lost. So if you share something, somebody differs with you, there's something as a fruit of the Holy Spirit called self-control. And it's resisting the urge to argue back. And what if we just use the platforms we were given to lift Jesus up, to share the good news, to share hope with others, to share love with others, to share our faith into the world instead of trying to win an argument. For our ministry as believers is a ministry of reconciliation with our enemies. It's a ministry of blessing our enemies. That's what a mature believer would do when it comes to how they operate on media. So to close today, let me give you 4 things. Here are some healthy habits for mature believers in media. First of all, you can set healthy boundaries. You can set time limits. You can be intentional about Michael turning off his screen when he's sitting in the recliner so I don't have to know the second a notification pops up on my phone. Because what does that do? It distracts me from something else because I just got another Facebook notification. Let's see what this one is. All right, somebody reacted to my photo last night. Hey, that's great. 22 people. That's not enough. It should be like 2,200 people reacting to that photo. I need to share it again. So more people will see it. More people will react. You can set boundaries so you're not controlled. You can set content boundaries. You don't have, there's even been times if there's a certain app that you click on every time you open the phone and it's the distracting one, you can't hold that thing down right there and you can delete that for a time. You can reinstall and all the information will be right there. But if it'll stop you if that's the one thing, you set healthy boundaries. Number 2, avoid using media during times that are meaningful. I promise you, you can go out with your family and eat, and the world's not going to explode in 30 minutes while you're eating. You don't have to know everything that's happening. Times that we spend with our families, time we go out with friends, church, oh my Lord. Unless you're sharing the video of the message, you can do that. Unless you're inviting people to church. What are we to do? Redeem the time. Redeem the time. Again, we're not going to say, I wish I'd have spent more time on my phone. I wish I'd have spent more time on things that'll last, on meaningful things. Number 3, you can also take a sabbatical from media. Here's something amazing. I can hold this button right here, and I can slide the power off. And now it's not on. And now I can touch it here, and guess what? Nothing happens. Because it's off. And you know what happens when that's off? You might actually take a deep breath and go, wow. Wow. I don't have to know where everybody is. Everybody don't have to know where I am. I had somebody the other day, I mentioned something about a high school reunion. I'm like, why do we need high school reunions? I know everything everybody I went to high school with does now anyway. I know what they eat. I know when they go to bed. I know what their kids do. I see them 24/7. I haven't seen them in 20 years, but I'm sick of them already. Not really. We know everything. Everybody's doing everything. Knows we do it. And, nobody's going to call me right now. I can have a moment of peace right now. I'm not going to have to worry about if somebody sends me a a DM, or I'm not going to have to worry about if I get a notification from an exclusive deal that runs out today and I got to hurry up and get it. For a moment, I'm totally free. You can take a sabbatical from media. You can control it. It doesn't have to control you. And then finally, hold on, I got to turn my phone on so I can see what time it is. Finally, you can think before you post. You can write it out. Write it out. Get it off your chest. And then just don't hit the post button. Before you hit that post button, say, what is my intention? What's my intention? Why am I doing this? Is this helping or hurting? Is this really making a difference? Or is it not worth my time? Think before, because don't be impulsive, because the Bible literally says to be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. The same thing applies in our media. So remember this as we close. Remember this. Whatever you feed in your life will grow. Whatever you feed will grow. If you feed fear, fear will grow. If you feed your insecurities will grow. If you're depressed and all you're doing is going to depression sites and posting things about depression, you're feeding that insecurity. You're constantly feeding it. And if you feed something, it will grow. If you feed division, it'll grow. If you respond to that hot-tempered person, then it's going to get into an argument, it's going to take up your next hour, but you do it anyway, it will grow. But also, if you feed your spirit, it will grow. If you feed your faith, it will grow. Whatever you feed will grow. Whatever you starve will go away. So let's feed on the right stuff. And let's feed what is healthy in our lives. What will lead to life. What will lead to a better mental state. What will lead to a better emotional state. What will lead to a better spiritual state. For these days, it seems like we're all dealing with something. Again, anxiety is at high. Mental health issues is all at high, and we have to address those things. But one of the things we have to look at is maybe some of the things we're feeding ourselves feeds into those results. So I can promise you, if we mature in our media, we will be healthier in our heart, our minds, and our souls. May we stand together this morning.